this happened today. I just came in here to check on TC tonight, and I opened the tub, and guess what? He shed. As I suspected, he probably didn't eat the other night because he needed to shed, and I'm happy to see that. He's the only retic we have. He's the only snake we have that color with those color eyes, and it was hard for me to tell what was going on with him, but I'm sure that he'll be ready to eat soon. Today's July 29th, and I just came in here to check on him, and so I'm very, very happy to see that he shed. And let's see what he looks like. Hey, pretty boy. Look how gorgeous you look. What a good boy. Do you think that you might want to eat now? Okay, so I had some hoppers left over from feeding some baby bredli, and he took one pretty quickly, within a few seconds of me. I showed him the target just because I want to start target training him, and he looked in the direction of the target and tongue flicked at it, but he didn't move towards it. But at least he looked at it and tongue flicked, and that's the very, very first step. He acknowledged that it was there, and so then I gave him the food reward. I don't know if you will eat a second one, or if you're nervous with me sitting here, but let's see. That's okay. Oftentimes they'll strike at the target when they're used to eating off tongs. They don't understand the target's not food. But what he's doing now, tongue flicking at it, investigating it, that's what we want his reaction to be. So he struck at it, it wasn't food. Now he's moving towards it, tongue flicking at it and investigating it. That's exactly what we want, because we want him to assess things before he decides they're food or not. There you go. Good job, buddy. I see that TC is out. I'm excited to see that he's out on his own without me having to look for him. He's been here exactly 1 week today. It's Tuesday, July 30th, and he got here on Tuesday, July 23rd. And right now we're just trying to let him acclimate, get used to us. I'm trying to come in here several times a day and check on him. Not handle him, not mess with him, just check on him and make sure that he's getting used to the smells, our household routine, the activity. And I am glad to see that he came out. This is the first day that he's come out of the hide on his own without me having to lift up the hide and check on him. I'm really happy to see that. I have a big enclosure that I'm setting up for him that's 4 feet long, and I'm not sure when I'm going to move him to that. Hi there, TC. I'm glad to see that you're sticking your head out and you're not hiding. I'm gonna give him this little box to play with. Some dog treats came in it, and it's the perfect size to put in here, and it has a pre-cut hole on one side. So I'm gonna stick that in the enclosure just to give him a novel item to explore. Set it right there on top of his other hide so he can get in it, crawl on top of it. Just some activity for him. You are out. Hi there. Just checking on you. Where are you at? There you are. You're okay. Cute little guy. His defensive reaction is to just freeze in place. That's fine. At least he's coming out more. Okay, well, if you're not interested in engaging with me or coming out, that's fine. I'll leave you back to explore your enclosure. I'm glad to see you're out, though. I just came into the snake room after feeding Zelenka, one of my Brettles pythons, and I see that Ceti's up and about and pushing on the lid of his container. So I will give him an opportunity to come out and engage if he chooses. Again, it's his choice. I'm not going to reach in and pull him out. If he wants to come out and engage, he can, and otherwise he doesn't have to. And small sessions like this are good for Snake. He's learning his parameters, he's learning his environment, he's habituating to the activity around him. And he's got no pressure. I mean, it's his choice whether to come out or not. And he can simply retreat inside his tub and go on a hide if he wants to. He's not doing that, and that's great. And I'm just going to let him be and monitor him. If he goes into an area that's off limits, that's dangerous, then I'll engage with him. I'll pick him up or redirect him. And he'll soon start to learn the parameters of the exercise space that he's allowed to be out and roam in. And I got really close to him just now, so he froze. And that seems to be his go-to response when he starts to get worried. And I imagine he's assessing the situation while he's sitting there frozen to determine if he needs to hide or flee or if things are okay. He obviously just determined that everything was okay because now he's engaging in more exploration. And this is definitely exploratory behavior. He's moving in a moderate fashion. It's not speedy. He's not frozen. He's tongue flicking, and he's not tongue flicking super fast. He's tongue flicking in a way such that his tongue's investigating the smells in the environment. His body's moving in a way where he's covering ground, but he's not rushing into unknown areas, except that he is just now. And so now I'm going to intervene because he has to learn that that's a no-no. That's what I consider an off-limits area. And so I simply just pick him up and I bring him back to his enclosure. No big deal. And in his case, I'm not going to shut the lid because this is really the first time that he's been allowed to do this. So if he wants to come out again, I'm going to let him. And then if he goes back into that same area where I feel it's unsafe for him to be, I'll just simply pick him up again and put him back in his enclosure. And the snakes normally learn the areas that they shouldn't be in after just 2 or 3 times of getting put away when they go into off-limits areas. I just keep saying this. I know that they're great associative learners, but they truly are. I've seen snakes experience things one time and remember it the next time they're presented with the same situation. I think that they're just incredible at associating outcomes with behaviors. And I can't believe he fit inside that tiny little coconut hide. But he did. And Garrett had told me that they like tight places and they like the coconut, the half shell coconut hide. So I put one in here. This is the only size I have, and I thought it would be too small. But there he is inside it. And so I'm going to leave him alone at this point. That was a good learning experience for him. He was just out for a short time. I left him alone. He went into an off-limits area. I quietly picked him up and put him back in his enclosure. He had the option to come back out if he wanted. He chose to go into this really small hide, and that's fine. So now I'm going to leave him alone. Very, very successful orientation session for him. All right, I'm checking on Ceti, and it looks like he's gotten his little box that I gave him for enrichment soaking wet because he moved it into his water. He moved his bin up on top of this table and opened the lid, and he decided to go back in and hide, so that's fine. I've got to clean because it looks like he produced some urates, and plus he got his towel all wet, so he's going to have to come out while I give him a fresh towel. All right, Ceti, you're going to have to come out so I can clean your enclosure. Yeah, you made kind of a mess in here, and you don't want to be all wet all the time, do you? How are you doing? I'm not feeding you right now. I just want you to come out. Yeah. That's a good boy. Why don't you come over here and tell everybody what a great book this is if they want to learn more about reticulated pythons while I clean your enclosure. Going the wrong way, little guy. Yeah, you're going the wrong way. My goodness, you're full of it tonight, aren't you? Now look at that predicament you've got yourself in. Silly boy. You're being a good boy. There you are. I see you. You're awfully full of energy tonight. Think you're settling in finally. My goodness. Okay, I brought you a toilet tissue, or I brought you a paper towel roll to play in this time. Don't get it wet. Are you climbing up the wall? You're gonna fall. You need to be careful. I told you that you were gonna fall, TC. Be careful, buddy. You need to build up your strength and your muscles to do stuff like that. Okay, Ceti's set back up in his new clean tub with new enclosure furnishings in the form of a paper towel roll. I put his water on top of his hide this time, so hopefully he doesn't get his cardboard in the water. And he's been out for about a half an hour, so I'm going to have him go on back in. Ceti just really didn't seem to want anything to do with going back into his quarantine tub tonight, so I went ahead and set up this 4-foot enclosure for him, and I'm letting him go ahead and be in it. I don't have any regular substrate in it yet, and mostly everything is plastic and stuff that I can easily sterilize and wash. but it has everything in it he needs for exploratory behavior, mental and physical stimulation, and he's got plenty of space. So hopefully he'll enjoy this. He has a hide on both the warm and cool end. He's got a humidity box on the warm and cool end. Plus I put his hide and his water from his old tub in here and his coconut hide in here, and a large water dish that also the snakes can hide underneath, and a paper towel roll, and one of the 3D printed perches from Specialty Enclosure Designs inside a small tub that's similar to the one he was in. Its design is exactly like the one he was in. It's just smaller and fits inside this enclosure because I noticed he liked to sit on the edges and he liked to sit on these handles. So I went ahead and put a small one of those in there in case he wants to perch on it. And then he's got these two shelves like the one he's in now and some regular PVC perches. So hopefully he's happy in here. Today's August 2nd, 2019, and Ceti spent his first night in this enclosure last night. And I wanted to get some shots of it while it was still light outside so that it was easier to see it. I haven't seen him today at all, so I have no idea where he is. He spent most all of last night exploring this enclosure, climbing in and on and in and out of everything in here. And I'm not surprised that we don't spot him today because I'm sure he's exhausted, and I'll be curious to see if he comes out tonight, and if he does, how active he is. This is the view from just another angle. And if I happen to spot where he is, I'll see if I can get a shot of him. But I generally do not bother the snakes when they're hiding. If they're hiding, then they want to be left alone. I wait for them to come out and be visible on their own. And most of the time I don't take them out of the enclosure unless it's a necessity. I wait for them to come out on their own because then it's their choice to do so. And usually if they've chosen to come out, then they're not afraid. Well, it's only about an hour since I showed everyone the video of the enclosure in the daylight, and it's still daylight. It's about 6:30 p.m. out in Colorado, so Mountain Standard Time. And I came in to the snake room, which I do about every hour, and Ceti's out, and he's perching above one of his humidity boxes, and he did check out both of his humidity boxes last night along with everything else in his enclosure. So we'll let him be. I'm sure he's tired after last night's shenanigans, and I'll check back later. Hi there, Ceti. I'm just checking on you. I see that you're out of hiding. Don't know where you've been hanging out the last 2 days since you've been in your new tub. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just checking on you. So this freezing behavior is because he's being stretched outside of his comfort zone right now. So when he's inside his hide, or he was just sitting here before I opened the enclosure door in a relaxed state, in a relaxed body position, and when I opened the door, he suddenly coiled a little bit and froze. And that seems to be his go-to behavior when he's uncertain about a situation. So clearly he's being stretched outside of his comfort zone. And that's okay. We all have to be stressed a little bit in order to achieve things, in order to accomplish things, in order to learn, in order to progress. And it's fine for the animals to be stretched outside of their comfort zone too, because after doing this a few times, eventually he'll discover that me opening the door is no big deal. It doesn't mean anything, and so he'll ignore it, or he'll come to know that opening the door means good things. Like maybe a new novel item will be placed in this enclosure, or he'll get fed, or he'll get the choice to come out and explore if he wants to, and he won't react with this freezing anymore. What we absolutely don't want to do is push him beyond this state into a state of distress. And that's a state where he is so fearful and so anxious that learning can no longer occur, and that he's not building any positive associations. In fact, now he would be building negative associations. If we push him past this point where we're stretching him out of his comfort zone, which is where he's at right now, to a point where he's distressed and unable to learn and so fearful and anxious about the situation that he becomes frantic, he's going to build negative associations with the experience. If we continue to do whatever we're doing, whether it be open the enclosure door or lift up the hide or try to handle him when he's frantic, when he's in distress, that's called flooding. And if we don't stop, he will build negative associations with what's happening, and he will now associate us and everything that came before, the opening of the door, the picking up of the hide, as a bad experience that he never wants to go through again. And it's going to be very, very hard to get over that in the future. What does distress look like as opposed to just being stretched a little out of his comfort zone? Well, distress would be striking, would be hissing, would be completely coiling up, would be frantic movement where he's moving quickly and trying to hide or trying to get away as fast as he can. He might be evacuating his bladder or bowels. He might be expressing saltatory locomotion where he suddenly jumps from one location to another. If your snake is exhibiting those behaviors, those are very, very bad. That means that he is stressed beyond the point of any reason, that he's so emotionally distressed that he's fearful, anxious. Again, no learning is going to occur. No desensitization or habituation is going to occur. And he's going to start associating whatever's happening with something very, very bad. And he's not going to want to go through that experience again. So we don't want to push them past that point. We do want to push them a little bit out of their comfort zone so that they grow and they learn that they can do more than just sit in a hide, or more than freeze when we're changing water or when we're checking on them. They're only going to learn that if, when we pick that hide up, as you've seen me do many times in the past 2 weeks since he arrived, if he had shown me any distressful behavior at all, I would have stopped immediately and put the hide back down. But because he just showed a little bit of stress, but not distressing behavior, he wasn't frantic, he just freezes, then I go ahead with what I'm doing as long as he's not pushed into that point where he's over the top with stress now. And as you can see, just since I've been standing here talking, he's relaxing a little bit. He's still very unsure about what's going on, but he is tongue flicking now. He's come in my direction a few times. And what he's doing is approach and retreat. He's come in my direction a couple of times. He's retreated back into his coil. He's turned his head away. That's all slightly fearful behavior. It's all behavior that indicates he's feeling a little stressed right now. But he's not indicating that he's in distress, that he's in that state of mind where he's just over the top frantic with fear and anxiety. And so because he's not frozen anymore and we've gotten a slight reaction from him, but I can see that he's uncomfortable, the thing to do now is to leave him alone. I spent a few minutes talking and I spent a few minutes standing here, but I didn't push any further. And so now I'm going to shut the door and I'm going to go away. And he can process what just happened and think, the door opened, she stood there a while, nothing bad happened, and she went away. And we hope that the more that I do that, the more that we do that with TC, that he starts to build not only desensitization to me opening the door and doing things in his enclosure, but also that he eventually associates that with positive behavioral outcomes, as in maybe I get to leave my enclosure and roam, maybe I'll get food, maybe she'll refresh my water, maybe I'll get a new humidity box. Just something that he sees as a pleasurable experience.